right, we are going to finish our Magic Treehouse book today. We have been working on Magic Treehouse book 19, Tigers at Twilight, and we are on chapter 9, The Hermit. Ka and Ko smoothed the man's hair with their little paws and patted his cheeks gently. The man smiled and whispered to the langurs. His eyes stayed closed. Teddy walked up to the man and licked his hands. The man still didn't open his eyes, but he stroked Teddy's fur. "Knock, knock," Annie said softly. "Is someone there?" the man asked. He turned his face toward Jack and Annie. Now his eyes were open, but he did not seem to see them. Jack realized that the man was blind. "Hi, I'm Annie," said Annie. "And I'm Jack," said Jack. The blind man smiled. "Good," he said, nodding. "Would you like to visit with me?" "Sure," said Annie. She and Jack sat down next to the man. "Do you live in this forest?" Annie asked. "Yes," he said. "Are you a hermit?" Jack asked. "Yes," the blind man said. "What's a hermit?" said Annie. "Hermits live far away from other people," said the blind man. "We like to be alone to think. I live in the forest so I can learn from nature." "How do you learn?" asked Jack. "I listen," said the blind man. "Listen to what?" asked Jack. "To the chatter of the monkeys, the rumble of the elephant, the roar of the tiger," said the man. "I have listened for so long, they have all begun to sound like one voice, the one great voice of the forest." "Did the voice tell you that a tiger got caught in a trap last night?" asked Annie. "Yes," said the hermit. "And did it tell you that after we saved him, he tried to attack us?" said Jack. The blind man smiled. "Please bring me one of the white flowers floating on the stream," he said. Jack wondered why the hermit was changing the subject, but Annie jumped up and hurried to the stream. She pulled at one of the large flowers. It came up muddy root and all. She took it to the blind man. "Thank you," he said. The man touched the flower's large white petals and its sturdy root. "This perfect lotus blossom grows from dark, thick mud," he said. "Its beauty cannot live without its ugliness. Do you understand?" "Yes," said Jack and Annie. "When you saved the tiger, you saved all of him," said the blind man. "You saved his graceful beauty and his fierce, savage nature. You cannot have one without the other." "Oh, right," said Jack. "Take this lotus as a thank you gift from all the forest for saving our fierce friend," said the blind man. "Our world would not be complete without him." Annie took the gift from the hermit. "A gift from a forest far away," she said. "Arf! Arf!" Teddy wagged his tail. The langurs clapped. "We can go home now," said Jack, "if we can just find the way." "Do not worry," said the blind man. "Your house in the trees is close by. The elephants walked in a large circle, so you are back at the place where you started." "Really?" said Jack. The blind man pointed to the sky. There was the magic tree house, high in a nearby tree. "Oh, great," said Jack. "I told you not to worry," said Annie. She and Jack pulled on their socks and shoes and stood up. Before they left, Annie touched the hand of the blind man. "Thanks for everything," she said. The man held her hand for a moment. Then he took Jack's hand. Jack felt a wave of calm wash over him. "Thank you," he said to the blind man. Ka and Ko chattered and held out their long arms. Jack and Annie hugged the two langurs. "We'll miss you," said Annie. "You were great tour guides," said Jack. "Goodbye." Then he and Annie took off for the magic treehouse with Teddy scampering after them. At the rope ladder, Jack put Teddy into his pack and climbed up. Annie carried the lotus blossom as she followed them. Inside the treehouse, Jack picked up the Pennsylvania book. But before he made a wish, he looked out the window with Annie. In the distance, they saw Saba and the other elephants bathing in the stream. They saw Ka and Ko swinging on vines. They saw the tiger sunbathing in the grass, licking his sore leg. They saw tiny deer grazing. They saw bright birds in the trees. They saw the blind man sitting in front of his cave. He was smiling. Jack opened the book. He pointed to a picture of the Frog Creek woods. I wish we could go home, he said. The treehouse started to spin. The wind started to blow. It blew harder and harder. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 10. Who are you, really? Jack opened his eyes. Late afternoon sunlight shined into the treehouse. Our third gift, said Annie. She put the lotus blossom beside the pocket watch from the Titanic and the eagle's feather from the Lakota Indians. One more gift, she said to Teddy, and you'll be free from your spell. The little dog licked her hand. Hey, tell me this, said Jack. How did you know Teddy wanted us to hide behind the rock? Annie shrugged. I just knew, she said. I think I saw it in his eyes. You did? Jack looked into Teddy's eyes. The little dog tilted his head and stared back at Jack. Teddy's eyes twinkled as if they held many secrets. Who are you really? Whispered Jack. Teddy just smiled a doggy smile and wagged his doggy tail. Come for us again soon, Annie said. Okay? Teddy sneezed as if to say, of course. Jack grabbed his pack. Then he and Annie climbed down the rope ladder. When they stood on the ground, they looked up. A little black nose was poking out of the treehouse window. Bye, they called together. Arf, arf. Jack and Annie took off between the trees. Birds sang in the twilight. Squirrels scampered playfully through the leaves. The Frog Creek woods were very tame after the forest in India. Soon they came to their street. As they walked to their house, the last bit of daylight was slipping away. Before they went inside, Jack and Annie sat on their steps. I have 2 questions, said Jack. If the hermit couldn't see, how did he know about the treehouse? And how did he know that we had traveled all night with the elephants? Easy, said Annie. The one great voice of the forest told him. Said Jack. He closed his eyes for a moment and listened. He heard a car going down the street. He heard a woodpecker pecking. He heard crickets chirping. He heard a screen door opening. He heard a mom saying, "Time for dinner, kids." All the sounds were like one great voice, the one great voice of home. And that's the end of our book, and that's The Lotus Flower. The last book that we're going to read for this school year is Magic Treehouse book number 20, Dingoes at Dinner Time. Dingoes live on the same continent as kangaroos and koala bears. Where do you think Jack and Annie might be going for this last adventure? Where do koalas and kangaroos live? Think about it and we'll talk about it next week. Have a great afternoon, guys. Bye.